Hi, Paul DeWitt here. I thought I would resume my 1911 National League replay in Strat-O-Matic, playing a game between the 1911 Cincinnati Reds and the 1911 Chicago Cubs. I'm going to replay the game of Saturday, May 6th, 1911 at Chicago, and I will post the video of it in a while. The games of particular interest, at least to me, because the starting pitcher for the Reds that day was Sleepy Bill Burns. Bill Burns was a pitcher for 5 teams between 1908 and 1912. Not a terribly good one, but not a terrible one. He was a big guy, 6'2", 195-pound left-hander. I'll show you a picture of him. Yeah, Burns was a hard-throwing left-hander from a ranch in central Texas. His father was a pretty successful rancher in San Saba County, Texas, which is right in the middle of Texas. Burns Sr. had 14 children. Bill was the 6th of 14. And developed a talent for baseball at a young age, was signed to a contract, started his career in 1908 with the Washington Senators. He ended up in 1912 with the Detroit Tigers. In the meantime, he played for 3 other major league teams, including the White Sox, the Reds, and the Phillies. And in early 1911, he was with the Cincinnati Reds. He will be starting the game I'm about to play, May 6, 1911, a game, by the way, he would win 5-4 in real life that day. But by later May of 1911, he had fallen into disfavor with his manager, the Reds manager, Clark Griffith, would call on him, or want to call on him, to go in a game in relief, would look down the bench or look out in the bullpen only to see Burns was fast asleep. He quickly acquired the nickname Sleepy, and that name stuck with him. He was known as Sleepy Bill Burns. But his main fame came several years after his baseball career ended. Turned out he had a huge role in the fixing of the 1919 World Series. He would be one of 2 men approached by a couple of the White Sox players in the latter part of the 1919 season, despite the fact that eventually 8 White Sox would be implicated and would be banned from baseball. Only 2 of them originally cook up the idea of throwing the series, losing the series on purpose in return for a large amount of money. Those 2 were Chick Gandil and Eddie Seacott. Gandil and Seacott were really good players. Seacott was a pitcher, Gandil a first baseman. They somehow were acquainted with Bill Burns, and also Burns was acquainted with a small-time Philadelphia boxer and kind of street hustler named Billy Maharg. Maharg would eventually, about a year after the 1919 series, spill the beans to a reporter in Philadelphia, and that's how the whole story broke. But Bill Burns was sort of the middleman. He and Maharg were between the White Sox players and eventually a couple of different gamblers, the main one being a New Yorker named Arnold Rothstein, but you also had, I think, a guy from Boston named Sport Sullivan, who were competing with each other to see who could convince the White Sox players to throw the series. The Strat-O-Matic game company, you may know, has published only 1 full season set from the dead ball era. That's the 1911 season. And the only card ever published by Strat-O-Matic for Bill Burns is this one. Yeah, his 1911 card, he split time between the Reds and the Phillies. Here's the back of his card. This is the card that I'll use to play the game today. Sorry, I have it upside down. Burns had a 7-10 record with a 3.38 ERA in 1911, split between the Reds and the Phillies. I'll develop the story more of his role in the 1919 World Series fix while I'm playing the game. One note I found doing a little research on Burns was that he came to Cincinnati in 1919, despite no longer having any affiliation with the Reds. He put an ad in the Cincinnati Enquirer in July 1919, which I was able to get off newspapers.com. Here's the ad. Kind of interesting. Oil leases. Bill Burns, former Red pitcher, is in town. This is from the Cincinnati Enquirer of July 12, 1919. He wants to interest Cincinnatians in the buying of oil leases and royalties located in the Texas oil fields. Wonderful opportunities for those who care to invest. The leases are located in the Ranger oil fields in the central part of Texas. Burns can be seen at room 609 Halen Hotel. He will be in Cincinnati 2 weeks. Apparently Burns, I don't know how well he did selling oil leases. And by the way, oil wasn't even found in that part of Texas until the 1980s. But he by late September 1919 was brokering the fixing of the World Series. I'll talk about that as the game goes along. The starting lineups for this game will be as follows. First, for the visiting Cincinnati Reds, Bob Bescher playing left field, leading off. Batting second, Dick Egan, second base. Batting third, center fielder Johnny Bates. Batting cleanup, first baseman Doc Hoblitzell. Batting fifth, right fielder Mike Mitchell. Batting sixth, third baseman Eddie Grant. Batting seventh, shortstop Tom Downey. Batting eighth, catcher Tommy Clark. And batting ninth in pitching, the aforementioned Bill Burns. For the Cubs, they'll line up this way. The homestanding Cubs in this Saturday afternoon game, May 6, 1911. Dave Sheen will lead off and play second base. Jimmy Sheckard will bat second and play left field. Circus Sally Hoffman will bat third and play center field. Batting cleanup for the Cubs today will be their first baseman, Vic Sire. Batting fifth and playing right field, their great star Wildfire Schulte. Batting sixth and playing third base will be Jim Doyle. Batting seventh will be their shortstop, Joe Tinker, of Tinker to Evers to Chance fame. By the way, Evers and Chance were both hurt at this time in 1911 and are not playing. Tinker, however, is playing shortstop today and batting seventh for the Cubs. Batting eighth for the Cubs will be their catcher, Jimmy Archer. He's a wonderful throwing arm, a -4 arm. And batting ninth in pitching will be Orlie Weaver. Weaver, whose card I will show you, started the season with the Cubs and would be traded later on into the season to the Boston Rustlers. Weaver, a not terribly effective pitcher in real life that year. He was 6-14 with a 5.30 ERA in 165 innings. All right, we will have this one underway shortly. Leading this one off for the Reds. He'll face Orlie Weaver, top of the first here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon on the south side of Chicago, or is it west side? Bescher hitting .283 with no homers and 3 RBIs. He is the leadoff man in the Reds lineup Let's get this one underway. Bescher ripping a ground ball. It's a daisy cutter to Tinker. Joe feels it cleanly over to first, quickly, easy out, and there's one down in the top of the first. Weaver, a right-hander who has pitched 14 innings thus far in my replay, has a record of 1 win and 1 loss with a 5.02 ERA. He's given up 16 hits in 14 innings, 8 walks, 9 strikeouts. He has allowed 1 homer. He will face Dick Egan, the Red second baseman. Egan hitting 182 in limited playing time. He hits a routine grounder to Sheen, scoops it up, throws to first, safe. The throw pulled Sire off the bag, charged Sheen with an error. That is not at all an uncommon thing in 1911, is infield errors. And Sheen, replacing Evers at second base, threw wildly to first, allowing Egan to reach. And Egan is a tremendous base stealer. He stole 37 bases in real life in 1911. Was caught 14 times. However, Archer, the Cubs catcher, has a tremendous arm. Egan has a 60% chance of being safe if he gets a good jump. He does get a good jump on the 3, 4, 5, and 6. Not going to try to have him steal just yet. Let's see what Johnny Bates can do. Bates, the Cincinnati center fielder, a Steubenville, Ohio native. He's hitting 280 in the replay, 1 homer, 8 RBIs. Here is an error, a ground ball to third baseman Doyle. He bobbles the ball. He has no play. And Bates reaches first on an error. Egan moving to second. So the Reds, with runners on first and second and 1 out, and they have yet to get a hit or walk in this game. The Cubs infield guilty of 2 errors already, and we're in the top of the first. Coming to the plate is Doc Hoblitzell. Hoblitzell hitting 358 with 2 homers and 10 RBIs. Orlie going to have to pitch well because he's not getting any help from his defense. However, he throws ball 4. Hoblitzell will trot down to first. The bases are now loaded, and Mike Mitchell coming into play. The Reds with a major threat here in the top of the first in Chicago. Bases loaded, 1 out, Mike Mitchell to the plate. Mitchell hitting 245 thus far in the season. Cubs going to bring the corners in, but not the second baseman and shortstop. By the way, I'm managing the Reds in this game, and I'm letting Hal manage the Cubs. Here is a base hit past Doyle at third into left field. Its ball's hit sharply. 1 run will score. Egan scores. Bates will hold on third. The base is still loaded. The Reds take a 1-0 lead. Eddie Grant going to come in to bat. He finds himself in a great situation. The Reds have the bases loaded and 1 out. Weaver in trouble, although certainly not all of his own making. Corners in, outfield shaded to right with Grant at the plate. Weaver looking in for the sign, shakes him off once, twice, brings it home. It's popped up into foul territory. First baseman Vic Sire grabs it for the out, and that is a big out, number 2 for the Cubs here in the first. Bases still loaded, but 2 out now for Tom Downey, the Reds shortstop. Downey hitting 313 in the replay. He hit 261 in real life. Not a very good clutch hitter. He hits only 212 in the clutch, according to Strat-O-Matic's calculations. Popped up to the right side. Sayre all by himself handles it in fair ground. Maybe Downey was trying too hard. He leaves the bases full, and the Reds have to settle for only the 1 run on 1 hit, 2 Chicago errors, and 3 runners left on base. We go to the bottom of the first. Bill Burns taking the mound for the Reds against the Cubs. Dave Sheen. Sheen will lead off. Sheckard will bat behind him, and Hoffman in the hole. Sheckard on deck and Hoffman in the hole. Bill Burns, a left-hander in my replay thus far, has had a terrible time of it. He has a record of no wins and 2 losses with a 7.98 ERA. He's pitched 15 innings, some as a starter, some as a reliever. He's given up 23 hits, given up only 2 walks. He's only struck out 4. He's given up 1 run. The left-hander from San Saba County, Texas, will deal to Dave Sheen. Here at Westside Park, Cincinnati on top, 1-0. Burns steps on the rubber, looks in for the sign. Here's his windup and pitch. Sheen rips one to left. He hit it right on the nose. Bescher is off to the races. He's coming fast. He dives. He is out. A very nice play by Bob Bescher. That will bring up Jimmy Sheckard. Sheckard hitting only .211, off to a very slow start. No homers, 5 RBIs. He has drawn 11 walks and has struck out 4 times. He's stolen 3 bases. Sheckard, the veteran left fielder for the Cubs, a left-handed hitter. Corners in for the Reds, guarding against a possible bunt. Sheckard, with a base hit, thought about trying for 2, but holds up at first with a 1-out single. Jimmy Sheckard singling to center off Bill Burns. Solly Hoffman will step in. Circus Solly hitting only .209 in 43 at-bats. He's only drawn 2 walks, has 3 strikeouts. The right-handed center fielder stepping in. Oh, here is Sheckard running with a pitch. He's got a 60% chance of being safe on the 1-12. The throw sails into the outfield. Cincinnati catcher Tommy Clark threw that ball away for an error, and Sheckard gets all the way to third with 1 out. An error by Cincinnati catcher Clark. The wild throw on the stolen base attempt by Sheckard. Sheckard gets credit for the steal and advances to third on the throwing error. So Burns will have to face Hoffman now with a runner on third and 1 out rather than a runner on first. Circus Solly hitting .209, as I mentioned a minute ago. Burns on the first base side of the rubber. Here's a check swing by Hoffman, a high pop into foul territory. It looks playable, and Eddie Grant makes the catch against the stands. A big second out for the Reds here in the bottom of the first. Vic Sire will step in to bat. Sire, who is replacing Frank Chance as the Cubs' first baseman. Chance sidelined for a few days with a knee injury, although he is available today for pinch hit duties. We might see him later in the game. He, of course, is the Cubs manager as well. Sire hitting .462. He is 6 for 13 in the young season. Sleepy Bill fires it home, grounder to second. Egan picks it up on 1 hop. Throw over to first, easy out. And that will do it for the Cubs in the bottom of the first. We're at the end of 1 inning. Cincinnati 1, Chicago 0. Leading off for the Reds in the top of the second, Tommy Clark, their catcher. Clark made a throwing error in the bottom of the first. He'll he'll try to redeem himself here at the plate here in the second. The throwing error on the stolen base attempt allowed Sheckard to scoot on over to third, but he was stranded there by the Cubs hitters, Hoffman and Sire. Tommy Clark hitting .280 for the Reds. Routine fly into center. Hoffman ranges over, reaches up, and grabs it for the out. That will bring up Sleepy Bill Burns. Burns, a good hitting pitcher. He has a 3 pitchers hitting card in Strat-O-Matic. He bats left-handed as he throws. And in real life in 1911, he hit 150 in 40 at-bats with no extra base hits, 2 walks, 14 strikeouts. So not too great overall, although Strat-O-Matic does give him the 3 pitchers hitting card. Let's see what he does. Nobody on base, 1 out. Slow ground ball, Doyle charging it. He drops it. Oh, another error on the Cubs infield. The third error already, and we are barely in the second inning. Chicago third baseman Jim Doyle, who's replacing the regular third baseman Heine Zimmerman, makes his second error of the game, allowing Burns to reach first with nobody out. And here's Bob Bescher. Boy, the Cub infield looks like a bunch of stone gloves out there. They haven't hit one yet to Joe Tinker. Tinker is a 1 fielder. Doyle a 3E44, Sheen a 2E50, Sire a 3E30. Oh, Sire boots a ball. There's an error on Vic Sire. So the 4th error of the game already by the Cubs. This is ridiculous. 4 infield errors by the Cubs. 1 by Sire, 1 by Sheen, 2 by Doyle. And once again, the Reds threatening in the second. First and second, nobody out, and Dick Egan at the plate. Egan reached on an error by Sheen in the first. He is going to sacrifice. I'm going to call on him to try to lay down a bunt. Cub infield back, transfer successful bunt, 92%. Egan might even beat this one out for a hit. Let's see if he can do it. There's a 58-footer, a wild pitch. Weaver uncorking a pitch that is nowhere near the plate. It bounces 2 feet in front of the plate and gets by Archer. It won't be necessary now for Egan to sacrifice because the Reds runners advance on the wild pitch and are now at second and third and nobody out. Egan will hit away. Here is a ground ball to Tinker at short. Tinker fields it cleanly. The 1 throws out Egan at first. However, the run scores. Bill Burns scoring from third. And the Reds take a 2-0 lead. There are now 2 out. And Johnny Bates stepping up to the plate. Bescher advanced to third on the play. So score at 6-3. Tinker to Sire. And credit credit Burns with the run scored. Let's see what Bates can do. 2-0 Cincy, 2 out, top of the second. Weaver not getting any support from his defense. Here's another grounder to Tinker. The 1 throws out. Bates at first for out number 3. So as long as the ground balls are hit to Tinker, the Cubs are okay. But when they're hit to any of the other 3 infielders, watch out. 4 errors thus far by the Cubs infield. We go to the bottom of the second. We're at the end of an inning and a half. 2-0 Reds. Wildfire Schulte leading off the bottom of the second for the Cubs. The fan favorite here in Chicago brings a 279 average into the game with 2 homers and 17 RBIs. He's also hit 3 doubles and 2 triples, has drawn 5 walks, and has stolen 3 bases. Wildfire, the left-handed batter facing the southpaw Burns. Ground ball off the changeup past Hoblitzel at first, rolling into the outfield grass. Schulte with a base hit. He is on first with nobody out, and that will bring up Jim Doyle, the right-handed hitting third baseman. Doyle will turn out to be a regular for Chicago, but he hadn't played much early in the season. He's hitting 310 at-bats. Red's going to bring the corners in to guard against the possible sacrifice attempt or bunt for a base hit attempt by Doyle. Burns goes into his stretch, looks over at the fidgety Schultz. He lobs one over to Hoblitzel. Schulte back easily. We're ready again. Now Burns comes home. The runner off with a pitch. The hit and run. Hoblitzel takes it to the bag himself. The ground ball to first. Hoblitzel retires Doyle, but Schulte down at second on the hit and run. 1 out, Joe Tinker at the plate. Joe having a tremendous season with the bat. He's hitting 377 in 69 at bats. No homers, 8 RBIs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. He will try to get Schulte in with the Cubs' first run. Burns slow to get ready. He has a 7.31 ERA this year. Tinker cracks a high drive into deep right. Mitchell ranges over, camps under it. He's lost it in the sun. Yipes! He recovers and makes the grab. A nice recovery by a right fielder, Mitchell of the Reds. He is a 1 out there, a terrific fielder, also got a terrific arm. Schulte not advancing on the play, and now there are 2 out, and Jimmy Archer to the plate. The Cubs catcher hitting 203 with 1 homer and 6 RBIs. Burns will pitch to him. He could walk him. There is a base open. Oh, here is a ground ball to first by Archer. It is a out, and there has been an injury to Archer on the play. Apparently Archer tripped over the bag, and he'll have to sit the rest of this game out. And that is out number 3 in the second. Chicago going to bring Tom Needham in to play catcher. Tom Needham, the veteran, will come in to play catcher for the Cubs as we go to the third. Top of the third, Doc Hoblitzel, the Reds cleanup hitter, will lead off. Hoblitzel drew a walk his first time up. Hoblitzel hitting 358 with 2 homers this year. Here is a ball in the dirt, and Hoblitzel draws the walk. He has drawn walks his first 2 times to the plate, and he is on first with nobody out. He stole 32 bases in real life, was caught 22 times. That will bring up Mike Mitchell. And Mike is going to hit away. Mike is not going to fool around with bunting or hitting and running. He's too good a hitter to have the bat taken out of his hands. He singled and drove in a run in the first. A slider by Weaver. Mitchell gets good wood on it. Hoffman backpedals quickly. Up with his glove. Out. Hoblitzel holding first. That'll bring up Harvard Eddie Grant, who fouled out to first his first time up. Do I want to... No, I don't want to bunt here. Hoblitzel, possible steal attempt. All right, Hoblitzel is going to try to get a lead. He has a 92% chance of getting a lead. 92% chance of getting a jump. He's off to the races. Here's the throw. He's in there. Doc Hoblitzel steals second and is down there with 1 out. Eddie Grant will try to drive him in. Grant's a 223 hitter in real life. Here is another wild pitch, though. Hoblitzel to third. Another wild pitch by Orlie Weaver allows Hoblitzel to advance to third. And now, with 1 out, we'll see what Grant does. He is an A bunter. The Cubs have brought their infield in. What are the chances for a successful squeeze? On the suicide, it's 61%. Wow. On the safety squeeze, the odds are 55% for success. The squeeze is called for. Grant gets the job done. A bunt back to the pitcher. Weaver had no choice but to throw out the runner at first. And Hoblitzel scores on the successful squeeze, and it's 3-0 Reds. Eddie Grant getting the runner in from third on the safety squeeze, and the Reds are up now by 3 with 2 out in the top of the third and Tom Downey at the plate. Sleepy Bill Burns getting great support from his offense and also the beneficiary of very poor Cubs pitching and fielding. Here is a base hit by Tom Downey off Weaver. A 2-out hit by Downey. He himself, Downey, is not such a great base stealer. He stole 10 bases but was caught 13 times. Tommy Clark stepping in the box, the Cincinnati catcher. I may try to have Downey get a lead anyway. Yeah, Downey's going to try to get a lead. Let's see, 67% chance of getting a lead. Looks like he might be going. He's off to the races. Here's the peg. He's a dead duck. So Tom Downey thrown out trying to steal, and that will end the inning. But the Reds pick up another run and lead 3-0 through 2.5. Bill Burns back out to the mound. The Cincinnati left-hander enjoys a 3-0 lead. He will face his opposite number. Orlie Weaver. Weaver, a weak-hitting pitcher. I used some home-brewed pitcher hitting cards that were created by the Strat-O-Matic community for many of the 1911 pitchers and other seasons pitchers. There is a home-brewed pitcher hitting card for Orlie Weaver. It has practically all outs on his card. There are no hits. There are a couple of walks on there, reflecting his 103 real life batting average. And when I use those cards, I roll the dice and read the result off the cards. And that's what I have done. And I rolled a white 6 and red dice total of 7. A 6-7 roll goes to Bill Burns' card against right-handed batters. Burns gives up a single. And so Orlie Weaver has singled off Burns to lead off the bottom of the third. He is on first with nobody out. By the way, Bill Burns, interesting note, historically made his major league debut on April 18, 1908 for the Washington Senators. He was already 28 years old. he pitched well in the Pacific Coast League for a couple of years. He ended up losing the game, did Burns, to the New York Highlanders in New York, 6-5 in 11 innings. On to our game. Dave Sheen will come up next for the Cubs after I enter the single using manual entry. Sheen flied out to left his first time up. He bats here with Weaver on first and nobody out, bottom of the third. Cincinnati up by 3. Double play ball. Grant has it on one bounce. The third baseman fires to second for 1 and to first for 2. Grant to Egan to Hoblitzel. A quick double play, and there are 2 quick outs in the bottom of the third. That will bring up Jimmy Sheckard. By the way, 5 days after Burns lost his major league debut, he picked up his first major league win, a 6-4 triumph over the Boston Red Sox in Washington. The losing pitcher later became one of the main figures in the Black Sox scandal. 23-year-old Eddie Cicotte pitching in relief in that 1908 game. Cicotte and Burns would meet up 11 years later, and along with Chick Gandil and Burns's sidekick, Billy Maharg, would set into motion the chain of events that would lead to the fixing of the 1919 World Series by at least 6 and probably 8 of the White Sox. But the whole scheme was initiated not by the gamblers, not by Bill Burns, but by 2 White Sox players who are very disgruntled, Chick Gandil and Eddie Cicotte. All right, back to our game. Jimmy Sheckard up, 2 out, nobody on. Sheckard lays off the pitch upstairs, ball 4, Burns walks him. Sheckard to first with 2 out, and Solly Hoffman coming to the plate. Bill Burns prematurely, he had a receding hairline even at the age of 30 or 31. He was born in 1880. Here is another walk. Hoffman down to first with Sheckard advancing to second and Vic Sire coming up. So the Cubs have first and second, 2 out. A clutch situation for Sire. Burns born in 1880, January 27th, 1880 in San Saba, Texas. So he would be 31 here in 1911. Pitching for his 3rd major league team. Here is a hard grounder down to first. Hoblitzel dives and grabs it, up with it, throws over to Burns covering first, score it 3-1, and that is the 3rd out for the Cubs here in the 3rd. We are at the end of 3. The Cincinnati Reds have 3 runs on 2 hits. They've committed 1 error. The Cubs have no runs on 3 hits and have committed 4 errors. Yeah. All right, leading off the top of the 4th is Tommy Clark. The Reds catcher flied out to center his first time up. In the on-deck circle, Bill Burns. Grounder to short. Tinker ranges into the hole. He backhands it plants his right foot, fires it to first. Safe. Tommy Clark, although a very slow runner, able to beat the wrap down to first. The ball was hit way deep in the hole. Tinker did a great job even getting to it. Planted his foot, fired to first, but the throw was late, and Clark on first with none out. Bill Burns to the plate. Bill is a D bunter, not a terribly good bunter, not a terribly good hitter either. Do I want to consider having Bill hit away? He reached first his first time up on an error by third baseman Doyle. I'm going to have him sacrifice anyway. He has a 56% chance of being successful. He squares, he bunts it, fielded by Sire, the throw to first, out, but Burns gets the job done. Clark down to second on the sacrifice. Sire passing up a possible force play, took the sure out at first, and Burns gets credit for a sacrifice. That'll bring up Bob Bescher with one out and Tommy Clark down on second. Bescher, the Reds' leadoff hitter, has grounded out and reached first on an error by Sire. Here is the pitch from Weaver, a high pop-up to the catcher, Needham circling under it, he's having trouble. A quick step back, he catches it in fair territory, a tough play by Tom Needham, the backup catcher who is in the game due to the injury to Archer, and Needham making a nice play for the second out of the inning, and that'll bring up Dick Egan. Egan stepping in with Clark down on second, and now two out. Egan hits a three-hopper to Doyle. Doyle scoops it and throws to first for the third out. So the Reds go down scoreless in the fourth. They leave a man stranded down at second. We go to the bottom of the fourth. 3-0 Cincy. Wildfire Schulte will lead off the inning for the Cubs. He singled off Burns his first time up. Schulte talking a little bit to the Reds catcher Clark. Now Burns toes the rubber. He's ready to go. The left-hander delivers it. Egan grabs it. He throws wild. Score it single and error on Egan. So now the Reds infield making mistakes. Second baseman Dick Egan was going to have a very tough time throwing Schulte out on the slow hit grounder. Schulte probably would have been safe. In fact, they're crediting him with a single on the play and advancing to second on the throwing error by Egan. So, none out. Jim Doyle to the plate. Schulte on second. Red's going to set the infield back all the way around. They are not going to hold Schulte on second. And they're not going to bring the corners in. They will play it straight up facing Doyle. High and inside fastball, ball four. Another walk by Sleepy Bill Burns. Bill has given up, I believe, 3 walks today. And he has the unenviable task of facing the tremendously hot Joe Tinker. Tinker hitting .371. I am going to bring the corners in case Tinker's thinking bunt here. Sleepy Bill facing Joe Tinker. Tinker, a farm boy from Kansas. Burns steps off the mound, back up there. He's into the stress of the pitch. There's a base hit to left field by Tinker, the third base coach giving the green light. The Reds are not going to throw for the lead runner. They'll let Schulte score. They're going to cut it off, and the Cubs have their first run. Doyle stopping at second. Tinker with a base hit, and it's a 3-1 game. Still nobody out, bottom of the fourth. And Tom Needham coming to the plate. Needham in the game due to the injury to Archer. Needham hit 194 in real life in 62 at-bats. He is a D bunter. I don't think he will be bunting here, so I'm going to play the infield back. There is nobody out. Let's see what Needham does. Doyle is being held down on second. Burns checks the runners. There's a line drive. Egan snares it for the out, right at Dick Egan. And the Reds, lucky there, get the first out of the inning. The runners scamper back to their bases, and that will bring up Orlie Weaver. Orlie Weaver, a poor hitter, although he singled his first time up, will probably be bunting here with one out and runners on first and second. Red's going to bring the corners in. Let's see. I'm going to let Hal decide. Weaver squares around. He bunts it down toward third, fielded by Grant. The throw is to first. He is out, but the runners advance to second and third on the successful sacrifice by Weaver. There are now two out. Runners on second and third. The Cubs leadoff hitter Dave Sheen steps to the plate. Sheen with a chance to possibly tie this game up with a base hit. Burns going to try to pitch carefully to him. Bill from Sense. There's a base hit to center field. A big clutch two-out hit by Sheen. One run in. Here's the other man coming around to score with an 80% chance. I'm going to stop the other runner for advancing and let Tinker score. Tinker scores, and the game is now tied up 3-all. A clutch two-out hit by Dave Sheen brings in runners on second and third to tie up the ball game. The Cubs now with 6 hits off of Burns, and Jimmy Sheckard stepping into the plate. Sheen off to the races. He has a 60% chance of being safe. Here's the throw. He is safe. A stolen base by Dave Sheen. Burns not paying close attention. And now Sheen in scoring position with 2 out and Sheckard to the plate. Jimmy has singled and walked his first 2 times up. Line to first. Hoblitzel grabs it for the out. That's out number 3, but the Cubs get 3 runs and have tied this game up. We're at the end of 4, Cincinnati 3, Chicago 3. Johnny Bates will lead off the top of the 5th for the Reds. Weaver still in the game for the Cubs. Orlie has given up only 3 hits through 4 innings, but he has been the victim of terrible defense. Here he is walking Bates to lead off the 5th. Johnny on first with nobody out. Well, he stole 33 bases but was caught 32 times. So basically a 50-50 proposition if Bates attempts to steal. Weaver going to hold him, obviously. That'll bring up Doc Hoblitzel. And Doc's going to hit away. Weaver rubs down the ball. Now he's asking for a new one. Into the stretch. Looks over at first. Quick throw. Bates dives back in. He is safe. Now here's the pitch. Hoblitzel swings. There it goes. A long way. She's gone. A home run by Doc Hoblitzel. Off Weaver, and the Reds have taken a 5-3 lead. Doc Hoblitzel connecting. In real life, he hit 11 homers. And in real life, Weaver gave up 9, so it's not all that rare to see a home run in that situation. Although generally home runs were pretty uncommon in 1911. In any event, Hoblitzel got hold of it and jacked a 2-run homer out of here, and it's now 5-3 Cincinnati. Weaver's inning of fatigue is the 5th, so we might see him tired shortly. The Cubs have a bunch of available relief pitchers, including Three-Finger Brown. Mike Mitchell stepping in. Mike hitting .255 on the year. Today he's 1 for 2. He flied out his last time up. Needham flashing the sign. Weaver shakes it off. Now he's happy. Ball 4 is the call. That might cause Weaver to be fatigued. Is that the third? Yes, that is the third hit or walk he has allowed in the 5th. The 5th inning is his inning of fatigue, and he is tired. And let's see if Howell replaces him. Meanwhile, Eddie Grant stepping to the plate. Eddie will swing away. Eddie successfully squeezed in a run last time. Bill Foxen has been called in for the bullpen. Bill Foxen coming in to relieve Weaver here in the top of the 5th. Foxen, a veteran left-hander. In my replay thus far, he has been horrible. He has pitched 9 innings. He's given up 13 hits and 13 walks. Yes, in 9 innings in my replay, he's given up 26 base runners. Half of them hits, the other half walks. He has struck out only 5. He has somehow won a game. He has somehow also saved a game, but he's lost a game. He's won 1 with an 11.00 ERA. In real life that year, he pitched only 13 innings, all early in the season. He comes in here with nobody out in the top of the 5th, and the Reds with a runner on first, and Eddie Grant at the plate. Eddie, a left-hand batter. And the Reds are going to just try to build on their lead here. Eddie Grant, a Harvard Law School graduate. I'll tell you something about Eddie in a second after we see what he does. Ball low and outside. Did he go around? The umpire says no, ball 4. So Foxen promptly walks the first batter he faces. He has now given up 14 walks in 9 innings. And that will bring up Tom Downey. I was going to say about Eddie Grant that he was killed in France toward the end of World War I. The American counteroffensive that ultimately led to German surrender occurring in the eastern part of France, and Grant sadly was killed in action there. But this is 1911 in our fantasy world, and that hasn't happened. Tom Downey to the plate, nobody out, corners in for the Cubs. Let's see if Downey hits away. He's going to try to sacrifice. He fouls off the bunt attempt. The count runs to 1-2. Let's see if they keep the bunt play on. No, we're going to take the bunt off and let Downey hit away. Tom Downey with runners on first and second, nobody out. Tom 1 for 2 today, hitting .324 on the season. Bill Foxen on the mound for the Cubs. Ground ball first base. Sire takes it himself. That's out number 1, but the runners advance and are now at second and third and 1 out. And Tommy Clark coming to the plate. Infield coming in for the Cubs. Clark will hit away. He has flied out and singled. Let's see if he can drive in at least one here. Tommy, 23 years old, in his third Cincinnati season. Foxen shakes off 2 signs. Here's the delivery just off the plate for ball 4. No surprise, another walk by Bill Foxen. He's now given up 15 in 9 innings thus far this season. And the bases are loaded for Sleepy Bill Burns. Okay. Bill has a 150 average in real life, and the corners are in. Bill is a D bunter, making the squeeze all but impossible. He'll hit away. Heck, maybe he'll draw a walk. Foxen has shown poor control, and let's see if Burns can draw maybe a walk off of him. Burns drew 2 walks in real life in 1911. Here's the pitch. Doyle comes up with it, fires and nails. Mitchell coming home. The runner on third, Mitchell, is out on the force play. No chance to get any other runners, but a big second out for the Cubs here in the 5th. Foxen with a chance to get out of it, but the bases are still loaded, and leadoff batter Bob Bescher coming to the plate. Bescher is 0 for 3 and is due. By the way, Bescher drew 102 walks in real life in 1911, so you've got to figure there is a very good possibility he will walk here with the bases loaded. Let's see if Foxen can get out of this jam. 3 on, 2 outs. Taken by Doyle, tosses to second on the grounder, score at 5-4. The inning over, and the Reds do get 2 runs. Could have gotten more. They got the 2-run homer from Hoblitzel to put them on top 5-3 as we go to the bottom of the 5th. Bill Burns back out to the mound. The Texan grew up on a ranch where his father grew cotton, wheat, oats, corn, and sorghum on 90 acres, kept 30 or 40 head of cattle, 10 or 15 hogs, and 100 to 200 chickens. I'm getting that from the biography of Bill Burns on the Society for American Baseball Research website, which has a wonderful biography of him. Solly Hoffman will lead off the bottom of the 5th for the Cubs. That biography, by the way, written by Stephen V. Rice. It's a very nice one, well researched. I'll draw from it some more as the game goes along. 0-2 count. Burns pitches, sinking fastball. Hoffman swings, wraps a hard ground ball right at Grant. Eddie up with it, easily throws to first. Hoffman out by a step. That'll bring up Vic Sire. Continuing on with the Bill Burns story. Burns was a natural athlete who exceeded at baseball, football, and rodeo, including roping, branding, and bronco busting. He signed a contract out of New Mexico Military Institute with the semi-pro team in California. Here, by the way, is a fly ball by Sire that Hoblitzel able to run back and catch in short right field. Nice running catch by Hoblitzel. There are now 2 out, and Wildfire Schulte to the plate. Wildfire 2 for 2 in this game. He's got his average up to 300, which was his real life average in 1911. It's been a strong upward climb for Wildfire lately. He was hitting down in the 220s not too long ago. Pitch on the way. He lays off the pitch. Ball 4. He walks. So Schulte to first with 2 out, and Jim Doyle to the plate. Anyway, Burns starred out in California first for a semi-pro team in Richmond. Then in 1906 and 1907, he pitched for the Los Angeles Angels of the Pacific Coast League and compiled a 24-17 mark for the pennant-winning Angels in 1907, which led to him being drafted by the Washington Senators. Here he is pitching in this 1911 game to Doyle. Schulte on first, 2 out. Throw over to first, Schulte safe. Doyle swings. A blooper into shallow left field. Downey running with his back to the infield. Reaches up. Very nice grab. A catch of the line drive sinking liner by Downey. Ends the inning, and we have completed 5 here, and it is 5-3 Reds. So it seems that Bill Burns had his good days and his bad days. He had terrific natural ability, but was shuttled from team to team because he was egocentric, lackadaisical, and difficult to manage, to quote Stephen Rice in his bio of Burns. So Burns ended up pitching for 5 teams in his major league career, which went from 1908 to 1912. Here in 1911, he is with the Reds, but not for too much longer. Dick Egan leading off the top of the 6th for the Reds. The second baseman is 0 for 3. He did reach in the first on an error and scored a run. Bill Foxon still on the mound for the Cubs. Egan rips a ground ball to shortstop. Tinker fields it easily over to first quickly for the easy out. That'll bring up Johnny Bates. Johnny has walked, grounded out, and reached on an error. If you're joining us late, the Cubs have committed 4 errors, leading more or less to at least 3 of the 5 Cincinnati runs. And Cubs starter Orlie Weaver was removed in the top of the 5th after giving up a home run to Hoblitzel and a walk to Mitchell. Bates facing Foxon. It's grounded past the mound. Sheehan races to his right. Tinker to his left. Tinker scoops it up. Throws on one bounce to Sire. Johnny beats it out. A infield hit by Johnny Bates puts him on first with 1 out and brings up Doc Hoblitzel. I almost had Doc bunt in the 5th, decided not to, and boy was I glad I took the bunt sign off because he homered on the next pitch, driving a ball over the left field wall for a 2-run homer, and that blow has the Reds on top presently 5-3. Let's see what Doc can do here. His homer in the 5th was his 3rd of the season. He walks. Ball 4 to Hoblitzel. The Reds with first and second and one out, and Mike Mitchell to the plate. Mike hit .291 in real life. In my replay thus far, he is hitting .255 with no homers. Let's see if he can do something against Foxen. We are in the top of the sixth. Cincinnati ahead 5-3. First and second, one out. Mitchell at the plate. 0-2 pitch. Mitchell rips a solid shot to center field. Hoffman juggling it, finally finds the handle, makes the catch. That is the second out of the inning. The runners can't advance. It'll bring up Harvard Eddie Grant. Eddie has fouled out, sacrificed, and walked. He bats here with 2 out against Foxen. Let's see if he can get at least a hit to bring Bates around from second. Base hit to right. Man on second going to try to score. He's got a 75% chance. That's Bates coming around third. The third base coach giving him the green light. Oh, they're going to cut off the throw and allow the run to score. Okay, all right. 6-3 Reds on the clutch 2-out single by Eddie Grant. He is now on first, and Hoblitzel holding at second, and Tom Downey to the plate. So after the Cubs tied it up with 3 runs in the bottom of the fourth, the Reds have regained their momentum and now lead 6-3 in the sixth. You have to wonder how much longer Howell is going to go with Bill Foxen. The veteran left-hander has not done the job today. He hasn't done much all season. Here he is throwing a pitch to Downey that Downey swings and misses on for strike 3. So Foxen able to strike out Downey to end the inning, but the Reds get another run and now lead 6-3 going into the bottom of the sixth. Bill Burns back out to the mound. The leadoff batter for the Cubs is Joe Tinker. The Red left-hander, Sleepy Bill Burns, will face Tinker, Needham, and either Foxen or a pinch hitter here at the bottom of the sixth. Burns looks down at Clark for the sign. Sleepy Bill rocks and fires, ground ball to shortstop. The throw to first, he is out. Tinker is retired, and that is 1 out. This is a replay of the May 6, 1911 game that Burns started and pitched and won in real life 5-4. But when Bill Burns was not on the mound, he failed to impress his managers and had trouble with falling asleep whenever and wherever he could, earning him the nickname Sleepy Bill. He also could be seen nonchalantly reading a magazine or newspaper while on the bench during a game. Yeah. That'll bring up Tom Needham. Burns not asleep now, and he stands to win this game if his team can hold on to this 6-3 lead in the sixth. Triple. That is just a flat-out triple. Tom Needham, the slow Cubs backup catcher who hit no triples in real life, has just tripled here. That is one of those situations where, because of the Strat-O-Matic game engine, it is possible for a batter who does not achieve a particular type of hit in real life can achieve it in Strat-O-Matic if he hits off the pitcher's card. So Tom Needham must have hit I guess he hit the 4-8 roll off of Burns's card. 4-8 is triple 1 to 7, single 8 to 20. So apparently Needham hit 4-8, and then the 20-side die was rolled on the computer, and the result was 1 through 7. And in any event, he is on third and with one out, and Bill Foxon at the plate. Obviously, the Reds going to position their defense in all the way around. Let's see if Hal pinch hits for Foxon. I know I would if I were managing Chicago. Nope, he's going to hit for himself. Hal going to let him hit it. That's a major league pop-up. Hoblitzel grabs it for the out. Oh, and here's an injury to Foxon, so he's out of the game anyway due to the injury. Well, it frankly shows a flaw in the Strat-O-Matic engine that Hal did not pinch hit for him there with his team down 3 runs and a runner on third and 1 out. Foxon, he was a 3-hitting pitcher, so he wasn't a terrible hitter, but still, you've got to pinch hit in that situation, especially with as bad of a pitcher as he is. You want to bring a new pitcher in to face the Reds in the 7th and on forward. Well, they are going to bring in a new pitcher, but it's merely by the accident of the injury to Foxon. All right, 2 out now. Dave Sheen to the plate, man on third. Bill Burns going to try to get out of this jam. Sleepy Bill is not sleeping now, I can guarantee you. He prepares for the pitch to the right-handed swinging Sheen. Grounder to short. Downey throws to first. Got him. That's out number 3. Cubs fail to score despite the 1-out triple by Needham. And we are at the end of 6 with the Reds on top 6-3. And now coming on to pitch for the Cubs will be Fred Toney. Fred Toney, a big right-hander. Fred Toney, a right-hander from Nashville, Tennessee. This is his rookie season in the majors, and he is on here in the 7th to face the Reds catcher Tommy Clark, leading off the inning. Fred will go on to be a very good right-handed pitcher all through the teens. Toney became a Red later on in the teens, and in 1917, while pitching for Cincinnati against his former team, the Cubs, pitched a no-hit game in May of that year. The remarkable thing is the Cubs pitcher that day, Hippo Vaughn, also had a no-hitter through 9 innings, a double no-hitter through 9 innings. The Reds ended up winning it in the 10th on a single, I think a stolen base, and a infield hit by none other than Jim Thorpe. Yes, Jim Thorpe, the Olympian, and who had a brief Major League Baseball career, drove in the winning run in the famous double no-hit game between Fred Toney and Hippo Vaughn in May of 1917. Anyway, back to this game. Tommy Clark will lead off the top of the 7th. Cincinnati up 6-3. The right-hander's delivery, 2 hops to Doyle. Clark is out. That will bring up Bill Burns. Bill has reached on an error by third baseman Doyle, sacrificed, and hit into a force play. Here he is stepping in against Fred Toney. The Reds pitcher here will be dealt to the Phillies in about 10 days in the real life 1911 season. And apparently sometime in 1911 must have befriended a Philadelphia boxer and kind of part-time baseball player and street hustler named Billy Maharg, M-A-H-A-R-G. Bill Burns, by the way, is out on a foul pop to the catcher here. And that will bring up Bob Bescher. Bescher 0 for 4 today. Maharg will turn out to be Burns' sidekick in 1919. They must have stayed friends. In 1912, the year after this game, Burns will be with the Detroit Tigers when in May, here is a base hit by Bescher with 2 out. In May of 1912, the Tigers were in Philadelphia to play the Athletics. Ty Cobb, the Detroit superstar, was being heckled by a Philadelphia fan. Cobb went into the stands and attacked the fan and obviously was ejected from the game and was suspended for 2 or 3 games by then American League president Van Johnson. Let's see what Egan does here with 2 out. Well, Bescher's going to try to get a lead first. Bescher stole 80 bases in 1911. Looks like he might be going. Tony fakes the pickoff throw. Bescher takes a shorter lead. There's still a 60% chance of him being safe, but I'm not going to attempt it because Egan is a poor clutch hitter. The Cincinnati second baseman is 0 for 4 in this game. Bescher takes a lead off first. He's not going. Tony comes home, swung on and missed. Egan is down on strikes. Out to the mound to face the Cubs in the bottom of the 7th. Leading off for Chicago will be Jimmy Sheckard. Burns and his Reds on top 6-3. Anyway, to finish the story, when Cobb was suspended, the remaining Tigers protested the ruling by AL President Johnson and decided to not participate in the next day's game in Philadelphia against the A's. So Detroit manager Huey Jennings, probably under pressure from his owner and from Van Johnson, had to go out and sign a bunch of Philadelphia Sandlot players to a 1-day contract just so they could field a team for that day's game against the powerful Athletics. So he went out and got 9 or 10 players, one of whom was Billy Maharg. Yes, Billy Maharg, who had never played, I don't believe, any kind of professional baseball, was the starting third baseman that day in May of 1912 for the Detroit Tigers. How was he recruited? He was apparently recruited by Bill Burns, who had pitched the year before for the Phillies and befriended Maharg somewhere along the way. This would have been in 1911. So when Burns, now with Detroit, came back to Philly in 1912, and his manager Jennings desperately needed to find some ball players, Burns reached out to Maharg, who signed a one-day contract and played third base that day for the Tigers. The Athletics won the farce of a game 24-2. That would not be the last time that Bill Burns and Billy Maharg joined up and formed a team, so to speak. Here is a ground out by Sheckard leading off the bottom of the seventh. Solly Hoffman coming to the plate. Ground ball scoots on through, base hit for Hoffman. He is on first with one out in the seventh. That'll bring up Vic Sire. Cubs with 8 hits on the day. Sire is 0 for 3. Burns still on the mound for the Reds. He's gone the distance so far. Here's a slider down and away, swung on. Sire rips a bouncer to Hoblitzel. He takes it and goes to second for the force. For the second out of the inning, Sire safe at first on the force play, and that will bring up Wildfire Schulte. So, Bill Burns, by 1919, his baseball career was pretty much over. He had tried to hook on with the Beaumont Oilers of the Texas League, but left that team to try his hand at making money in the Texas oil industry. Of course, the Texas oil industry was completely unregulated at that time. There was rampant speculation, all kinds of swindlers and fakers and stock manipulators trying to take advantage of the sudden nationwide interest in Texas oil. So Bill Burns, never one to shy away from a chance to earn a quick buck, decided to come to his old major league acquaintances. Here's a base hit for Schulte. So the Cubs with 2 on and 2 out in the seventh. And Jim Doyle at the plate in the clutch situation. Burns showed up in Cincinnati in July of 1919 and posted an advertisement in the Cincinnati Enquirer trying to get interest in the buying of oil leases and royalties in the Texas oil fields. The ad, which I showed in the intro, which says Burns can be seen at room 609 Haviland Hotel. He will be in Cincinnati 2 weeks. This in July 1919, 3 months before the infamous World Series. Here is Jim Doyle. Back to our game. Loop to short. Downey grabs it for the out. Doyle chucks in the clutch. Score at 6. That's the end of the inning. Cubs fail to score. We'll go to the 8th. Cincinnati 6, Chicago 3. So, I guess after Burns finished his business in Cincinnati in July of 1919, he went to St. Louis and made a similar pitch there to St. Louisans, claiming he'd invested $500 in an oil lease and 2 weeks later sold it for $16,000. And with that money purchased more oil leases for which he was offered $60,000. He boasted that oil had been discovered on his farm down in Texas some time ago, and that he had enough money now to buy a major league ball club. Yeah, Bill Burns was a tall tale telling Texan. Here is Johnny Bates leading off for the Reds in the top of the 8th in our game. Johnny 1 for 3. Fred Toney on the mound now for the Cubs. Kicks and delivers. Good slider inside part of the plate. Bates gets his bat on it, slams a sharp grounder to the right side. Sheen grabs it, throws to first, out for out number 1. So Bill Burns in August 1919 kind of hooked on with the Reds as a batting practice pitcher. The Reds were sailing to the pennant. They were having, I don't know if sailing, but they were on their way to the National League pennant. And here Burns was pitching batting practice to them, probably pitching oil leases to them as well. He sold oil lease for about $2,000 to some Cubs, including Hippo Vaughn, Fred Merkle, Speed Martin, and Bill Killefer. So traveling around the National League circuit in 1919, Burns eventually was approached by 2 American leaguers, 2 Chicago White Sox, Chick Gandil and Fred Merkle. Here is Hoplitzel bouncing back to Toney for the easy out. 2 out and Mike Mitchell to the plate. And so during his travels around Major League Baseball cities in 1919, Burns hooked up again with Billy Maharg. Here is a base hit on a line drive to left by Mike Mitchell. He is on first with 2 out in the 8th. And that will bring up Eddie Grant. Mitchell's going to try to get a lead and steal second. He has a 100% lead chance. And if he will have a 70% chance of being safe. Here's the throw down to second. He is safe. Mike Mitchell stealing second with 2 out in the 8th. He'll be held there. And so here is Eddie Grant, who got a big clutch RBI in the 6th to put the Reds, increase the Reds lead to 6-3, which is where it stands now. Here's a ground ball to short. Tinker throws to first. Grant beats the throw. The speedy Eddie Grant beats the throw to first, and he is there with 2 out and Mitchell down to over to third and Tom Downey to the plate. So Fred Toney, after getting the first 2 batters easily, finds himself in a jam with Red runners on first and third and 2 out and Tom Downey at the plate. Tom is 1 for 4 today. The shortstop hitting .306 now on the season. Facing Toney. Toney checks the runners. Here's a 3-0 offering. Fastball just inside. That'll be ball 4 and a walk. That'll load him up for Cincinnati and bring up Tommy Clark. So now, after retiring the first 2 batters easily, Toney unable to get the next 3, and the Reds have loaded the bases with 2 out. They're already on top 6-3, and let's see what Tommy Clark does. Taken by Tinker over to Sire, got him. That'll do it. The Reds leave the bases loaded, and at the end of 7.5, their lead is still 6-3. Bill Burns still on the mound for the Reds. Takes to the hill in the bottom of the 8th. Anyway, flashing ahead to 1919. Bill Burns and Billy Maharg eventually conspired with not just Chick Gandil and Eddie Seacott, but at least 5, probably 6 other Chicago White Sox. Lefty Williams, a pitcher, Swede Reisberg, a shortstop, Happy Felsch, an outfielder, a utility infielder, Fred McMullen, and apparently shoeless Joe Jackson, although many historians will doubt that Jackson actively participated in the scandal. He hit .375 in the 1919 World Series, but he was implicated by Maharg, and Jackson, when called upon to testify to a grand jury that convened in the fall of 1920 in Chicago, confessed to having taken money from the gambling syndicate, leading to the famous encounter between Jackson and a kid on the streets of Chicago outside the grand jury. The kid saying, "Say it ain't so, Joe," and Joe Jackson just sort of walking away. Bill Burns was indicted by that same grand jury, but was never prosecuted because he turned state's evidence. In other words, Bill Burns agreed to testify for the prosecution against the 8 Black Sox defendants in the jury trial that took place in 1921. And from all accounts, Burns made a fairly good and credible witness. He was on the witness stand for 3 days, faced brutal cross-examination, but apparently held up pretty well, and emerged from that trial having his credibility somewhat restored, even though, by his own admission, he was the link between the White Sox players and the New York gambling syndicate. He and Maharg were. Here is a triple by Joe Tinker leading off the bottom of the 8th. Let's get back to our game. Joe Tinker leading off with a triple in the 8th, and he stands on third with nobody out and Tom Needham at the plate. Needham tripled himself last time up, a feat that he did not achieve at all in real life in the 1911 season. Here is Burns dealing to Needham. Tinker heads for home. Egan can't come up with it. There's an error by the Cincinnati second baseman. Needham reaching first on the booted ground ball. Tinker scoring from third, and we've got a 6-4 game now. And Fred Toney scheduled to hit. Fred Toney, not a good hitting pitcher. I would expect a pinch hitter. And let's see what Hal does. I also expected a pinch hitter last time that the Chicago pitcher came to bat, but Bill Foxen hit for himself with a runner on third and I think 2 out, and Foxen made an out and was injured. So dumb decision by Hal then. But here we have a pinch hitter. Oh, Frank Chance. The peerless leader has grabbed a bat. He will pinch hit for Fred Toney here. Frank Chance, the legendary Chicago player-manager, who has been injured for the last week or so and not playing, but he has inserted himself into the game as a pinch hitter with none out in the 8th. Chance hitting .294. With no homers and 11 RBIs. He has drawn 11 walks in 45 plate appearances thus far. Burns will try to get him here. Throw over to first. Needham back safely. If Chance gets on, the Cubs will have the leadoff batter coming up. Screening a liner towards second. Egan makes a great catch. Throws to Hoblitzville. Doubles Needham off. Needham fell asleep at first base and was caught off base. And there is a huge double play turn by the Reds on the line out by pinch hitter Chance, caught by second baseman Egan, who threw quickly to first, doubling off Tom Needham. And instead of having a threat here in the bottom of the 8th, the Cubs find themselves with 2 out and nobody on, and Dave Sheen coming to the plate. So a great play that succeeded a bad one by second baseman Egan. Tom Needham had reached on the error by Egan, but then pinch hitter Chance lined toward Egan, who made a great catch and doubled Needham off first. Here is a grounder to short, Downey over to first for out number 3. Hank Griffin has been called from the bullpen to come into the game for the Cubs in the 9th. And as we go to the 9th, the score now, Cincinnati 6, Chicago 4. Hank Griffin a most unusual choice by Hal, because Hank pitched 9 innings. He pitched a complete game, although he lost it just yesterday in my Strat-O-Matic game between these two teams. Griffin started and finished the game for the Cubs, although he lost 7-5, and yet Hal picks him to come in relief, very tired, here in the 9th inning of this game of Saturday, May 6th. He will face Bill Burns to lead it off. Bill, up for the 5th time today, has reached on an error, sacrificed, hit into force play, and fouled out. Let's see what Sleepy Bill can do. Here's a vicious cut, and what a breeze he creates. Strike 3. Bill gave it his Sunday punch, but missed. Only today is Saturday. So 1 out, and Bob Bescher coming to the plate. Yeah, Bill Burns, if he can hang on and win this one today, will have a hot time, I bet, tonight in Old Chi-Town. It is the 9th inning, and he's got his Reds on top 6-4. And if he can hold the Cubs in the bottom of the 9th, will be the winning pitcher. Here is a 3-hopper toward Dave Sheen, hit by Bescher. Sheen throwing to first for the out. So tired or not, Hank Griffin has come in to retire the first 2 Reds in the 9th. Dick Egan at the plate. The Cincinnati second baseman is actually 0 for 5. He's going to be 0 for 6. His are 2 hopper toward Doyle. Egan is out, and that is the end of the inning. And we will go to the bottom of the 9th with Cincinnati on top 6-4. And let's see if any defensive changes might be in order for Cincinnati. I don't think so. The most obvious weakness in the Cincinnati defense is at shortstop, where Tom Downey is a 4 E88, which is the worst or highest E rating a shortstop can have, I do believe. But the Reds don't have anybody much better. They do have Dave Altizer, but he's a 4 E84 at short, and they have Jimmy Esmond, who's a 4 E72 at short. They are marginally better, but I'm not going to replace Downey with one of them. Otherwise, Cincinnati actually in fairly good shape defensively. On the mound, of course, Bill Burns going for the complete game victory. He'll face Jimmy Sheckard, Solly Hoffman, and Vic Sire here in the 9th. I'm going to play the infield back all the way around. Of course, Bill could collapse in the ninth and end up losing the game. Sheckard dropping a bunt, Burns off the mound, scoops it up barehanded, flicks it to Hoblitzel. Too late, a base hit. I should have had the corners in. I moved them back, and Sheckard very shrewdly dropped a bunt, very alertly. And of course, Bill Burns is not the most nimble guy, although he's a one fielder, so he must have been a pretty good fielder, very good fielder. But he did not retire the speedy Sheckard, and the Cubs have the leadoff man on here in the bottom of the ninth, and their best hitters coming up. Here is Solly Hoffman. Sheckard got to be held on first. Nice piece of bunting by Sheckard to lead off the bottom of the ninth. His Cub team down by 2. Pitch to Hoffman. Egan can't come up with it. Another error by second baseman Egan. Score at E4. Another error. That is the 4th Cincinnati error of the game. They have now matched the Cubs, who also have 4 errors. All the Cub errors were very early in the game. The Cincinnati ones coming here later. Now real trouble. Vic Sire at the plate. First and second, nobody out. I'm going to bring the corners in. But if Sire chooses to sacrifice and is successful, the Cubs will have the tying run on second with 1 out and Wildfire Schulte coming to the plate. Or even worse, if Sire gets a hit or a walk, the Cubs will have the bases loaded and nobody out, and Schulte coming up to the plate. Let's see what Sire does. Bill Burns, hurt by his own defense, specifically Egan. Base hit to right for Sauer. The third base coach puts up the stop sign, the runners hold. The bases are loaded and nobody out for Wildfire Schulte, who is 3 for 3 today plus a walk. The Cubs trailing 6-4, but that's probably going to change soon. The tying run, Hoffman down on second with nobody out. The go-ahead and winning run, Sire on first with nobody out. Schulte at the plate. Bill Burns on the edge of being tired. The Reds may have no choice but to leave him in the game. Taken by Hoblitzel. Throw to second for 1. Over to first. Double play! A 3-6-3 double play is turned on, and although the Cubs do score a run, cutting the score to 6-5, and although they do have the tying run still on base, actually on third with 2 out, a double play was just what the doctor ordered, and the Reds have a chance to win this game without having to worry about extra innings. Let's see here. Jim Doyle at the plate, 2 out, tying run on third. Doyle is a .254 hitter in the clutch. He is a right-handed batter facing the lefty Bill Burns. And since this is 1911 and there were no such thing as closers, and it was considered just part of being a starting pitcher that you are expected to complete the game, I am going to pitch to Jim Doyle. Burns is going to pitch to him. The third baseman is walking deliberately to home plate. Hoffman on third, 2 down. Chicago down by 1. Doyle swings and lifts one towards center. Bates drifts under it, makes the easy catch. That's the ball game. The Reds win it 6-5. Bill Burns going the distance and able to hold the Cubs to only 1 run in the ninth, even though the bases were loaded and nobody out. The final score Cincinnati 6, Chicago 5. We'll look at the box score. It shows that the Reds had 6 runs on 9 hits and 4 errors. The Cubs had 5 runs on 12 hits and 4 errors. The Reds left 14 runners on base. The Cubs left 10. Let's break that down a little bit. The Reds had 9 hits. They scored 6 runs. They reached base on 4 Chicago errors. They, it looks like, stole 2 bases, had 1 caught stealing. They drew 8 walks off Cub pitching and ended up scoring 6 runs while leaving 14 on base. Meanwhile, the Cubs scored 5 runs on 12 hits. They drew 4 walks. They left 10 on base. The key offensive moment came in the 5th when Cincinnati scored 2 runs on the 2-run homer by Doc Hoblitzell, his 3rd of the season. The Cubs had tied the score at 3 in the bottom of the 4th. The Reds would take a 5-3 lead on the Hoblitzell homer, and they would never be caught after that. Bill Burns going the distance, pitching a 12-hitter, giving up 5 runs, 3 of them earned, 4 walks. He struck out none. He did not give up a homer. He lowered his ERA to a still very poor 6.08. He gained his first win of the season against 2 losses. Meanwhile, the Cubs' Orlie Weaver suffered the loss. He's now 1-2. He gave up 4 hits in 4 innings pitched. He gave up 5 runs, 3 of them earned, gave up 4 walks, no strikeouts, and 1 homer. So the Reds improved the record to 6-8. The Cubs dropped to 9-10.